Indonesia. First of all, we do hope that you are all well and keeping safe in what seems to be ongoing challenging times. So my name is Larissa Kaito, and I'm sure I have met many of you on my previous travels through your beautiful country. I also know that many of you have attended some of our earlier events throughout this year in particular. Today's webinar, Australian Wheat and Oats for Indonesian Noodle Market, is organised and brought to you by the Australian Export Grains Innovation Centre, or AGIC as we like to call ourselves. And I'm sure again that our audience and customers in Indonesia understand that AGIC is a leading organisation for market insight, innovation and applied solutions. We work together with our grains industry to better service you as our customers. And of course, we work closely and need to work even more closer with you and your customers so that we can support you better in using Australian grain. Today, we have combined wheat and oats. So this is the first time we're doing it this way. And in a way, if you like, you are in a very special seat today. So welcome to your pre-screening of AGIC's Australian Wheat and Oats for Indonesian Noodle Market webinar. So wheat and oats, two different crops with one thing in common, noodles. Throughout the day today, we will be discussing the quality of Indonesian noodles, or better application of Australian wheat for Indonesian noodles, and we'll also share with you some insights into how Australian oats can be made to make a range of different products, but specifically today we'll focus on noodles. So today I will be your host as well as one of the presenters. And together with me here today is one of my colleagues, Dr. Shabori Mitra. Shabori is Australia's leading expert in oats, cereal chemist specializing in oat quality and applications of oats. A little bit later, Shabori will be presenting some of our research on innovative ways of consuming more oats. And she will also explain to all of us why we should be eating more oats. So the program for today is three little presentations, one specifically covering Australian wheat and yellow alkaline noodle quality, one talking a little bit about, or exploring opportunities rather, talking about Australian noodle wheat applications for Southeast Asian noodles, but also hopefully other products. So new product development opportunity. And then lastly, but not least, Shabori, as I mentioned, will present some of our research on the quality of Australian oats, and also, again, perhaps opportunities for Southeast Asia as a region, and specifically Indonesia, on how to utilize perhaps and gain greater benefits of using Australian oats. We will have time for questions, and we would like to encourage you to ask as many questions as you have. We will hold all the questions until the end of today's webinar. So once we finish with all three presentations, we will address your questions. You can, however, ask questions throughout the webinar at any time. Please use the Q&A tab. And as I said, we will get to all your questions at the end of the webinar. In addition to the three presentations, we do have a little exercise about halfway through today's webinar. And a little exercise is our little survey on wheat quality requirements for your market. We would very much appreciate your input. Remember, again, some of you have done surveys with AGIC before. This, again, it's us first time doing it in an online forum, if you like. It is your opinion that's valued by us and our industry. So we would very much like to encourage you to participate in what I'm calling exercise full of fun. So for now, I'll leave it at that, but I'll come back to the surveys a little bit later throughout the webinar to explain exactly what and how we would like to do in our wheat quality surveys. Today's webinar is offered to you both in English and Bahasa, so you can choose the language in which you would like to listen to us today by choosing between Bahasa and English, by using the little, looks like a globe icon on towards the right hand side at the bottom of your screen. You can switch between the languages if that's what you'd like to do throughout the webinar without any problems. Our two translators are working very hard behind the scenes, Linda and Maria, and we thank you both for your ongoing support. So, in addition to questions to us of technical nature, if you do experience any technical issues, anything IT related throughout the webinar, please use the chat tab, pause your question, and our IT expert, Luke, will be able to help you throughout the webinar. So please do let us know if you experience any issues of any nature. I would like, first of all, to thank you again for your time in joining us today. Your time certainly is very much appreciated. Again, we would like to encourage you, please, to use the interactive features of the Zoom and ask as many questions as you like, again, using the Q&A tab. So, without any further delays, we'd like to get started with today's proceedings, your first presenter today will be myself. My first presentation today will be on Australian wheat for premium yellow alkaline noodle quality. Okay, so just making sure you all see the screen. Okay. So with yellow alkaline noodles today, what I would like to cover is what actually makes Australian wheat as your best choice for your noodles. I would like to talk to you about different applications of our wheat. Yellow alkaline noodles, of course, are a big family of noodles, and across Southeast Asian noodle market, there's a range of different types and qualities. And I'd like to briefly touch on how our wheat is actually used across different markets for yellow alkaline noodles. I will briefly touch on, I mentioned earlier, AGIC has conducted market intelligence or wheat quality requirement studies throughout Southeast Asia. And I'll touch briefly on what we've learned so far. More importantly, how have we, as AGIC, used the results with our industry and what are some of the outcomes of our previous studies? And hopefully then again, encourage you to participate in today's survey as well. I will briefly look into our 2021 quality from noodles perspective only. And talk to you about how we here at AGIC go about measuring quality and functionality specifically of our wheat, but then again, more specifically about our noodle products. Okay, so what makes our wheat, as I said, best choice for you and your noodles? So on the slide here, I've got a range of different quality features. On the left-hand side, broadly speaking, general quality of our wheat, production environment, quality, support behind the scenes, if you like. So an industry decision to focus on white wheat, specifically introduced or implemented in our system with Asian markets as our focus. So the importance of appearance, of course, for many Asian products, not just noodles, was well understood by our researchers many years ago. And so up to today, we focus on white wheat only for milling. So this gives us clear advantage for milling applications and use of our wheat in the range of products where appearance and good look is really critical for our products. Generally speaking, clean and dry environment, producing wheat that is lower in moisture content than any other origin. On top of food and safe environment, production environment, together with low moisture content, our wheat then also results in what we call sound grain, but basically meaning of sound is wheat high in falling numbers. And again, we know this is critical for noodles, but also other products where again, color, appearance, and looks are really critical. Milling efficiency or milling quality, it's probably the top focus of our classification system. Many times our breeding companies will bring lines forward to classification, and some of those lines might have good baking quality, some of those lines might have good color or good appearance, but unless they've got a good efficiency for milling, they typically are not classified into any of our milling classes. On top of that, a whole of industry quality management, so not just the classification system, which in our case, it's probably one of the strictest on the globe, but also beyond classification, quality management each season, it's quite critical for us as an industry to deliver quality product to all our users. Generally speaking, a lot of our milling classes or grades are designed in such a way that they offer versatility and blending opportunities as well. Then we come more specifically into genetic quality of our wheat or inherent quality of our wheat, controlled by our breeders, if you like. So the items on your right-hand side, which talk or give you more insight into how individual either wheat varieties or grades and classes could contribute quality to different products. So again, understanding not just efficiency of milling, but understanding the importance of milling yield, but at the same time, lower ash and therefore cleaner flour. Again, we understand how that contributes to cleaner, better looking noodles. Cleaner, meaning free from contamination of bran, so no specks, no colored particles basically in our noodles. The initial color, of course, is important, but perhaps as important, if not a little bit more important, is the retention of that color. And so this, again, is an inherent quality that our breeders can control and look for in our varieties. For many, many years, research in Australia has focused on starch quality, again, specifically looking to package our wheat better for Asian noodle products. We understand the critical importance of starch quality and particularly contribution of starch to different textural properties of noodle products across our Asian markets. AGIC specifically, of course, contributes not just through the innovation and applied solution, but most importantly, perhaps from your perspective, our objective is to really support you in using or generating greater value, if you like, for your business from our grain. So in working closely with you, we not just support you as a business, but also support our industry, support you better. So a lot of Australian wheat, whether we talk about APH or AH or APW, which are all milling classes of our wheat that I know the audience in Indonesia is very familiar with. We probably find any given grade or any given class of Australian wheat used for one noodle type or another. Typically, we like to think about noodles as North Asian style and Southeast Asian styles. I know there are many other markets and many other regions, but this is broadly how we, I guess, consider our wheat classes and grades, if you like, when we talk about application purposes. And so again, as you can see on the slide here on the left-hand side, we have probably major, if you like, types of noodles typically consumed in markets like Japan, Korea, China, Taiwan, perhaps. In a lot of cases, you see that a unique eating quality requirement by the customer has led us as an industry to develop specialty types, if you like, or varieties or classes that uniquely offer the quality requirements by the client. So examples here are, for example, the Japanese udon style or the Korean instant or dried white salted noodles, Korean or Chinese, for example. So noodles where if you like, a little bit more stricter, or even stricter than general classification requirements in our system are applied to really screen. Specifically, I'm going to come back again to starch quality, which of course it's quite hard to isolate from other quality traits like protein quality or protein content even as a matter. But specifically here, the focus really is on unique starch quality or swelling properties of starch of our wheat. On the right-hand side, I have a group here of, again, a range of yellow alkaline noodle styles typically consumed throughout the Southeast Asian region. Again, probably some better known examples. By no means is this the entire list, but just to give us a little bit of insight of the range of products that at any given point in time we're actually considering when either as wheat breeders in our country we're developing new varieties, or as a classification system we're classifying those varieties into different classes. A lot of work of AGIC over the last probably 5 or 6 years has focused on broadly understanding our Southeast Asian requirements for a range of these products. Really, our emphasis over the next few years will be to work very closely with you to understand what really drives your consumers, if you like. So if you're a flour miller, for example, in Jakarta right now, we'd like to work with you to really understand how do you noodle makers or your consumers actually at the end of the day, what sorts of requirements do they place on you, and what is important to the actual end consumers, so that we can again working backwards with our research organizations, but also classification bodies as well as breeding companies, support you better and provide the exact qualities that you as our customer are after. So I've mentioned earlier, probably Indonesia 5-6 years ago, together with my team, we've traveled through a lot of countries through Southeast Asia and certainly visited Indonesia a number of times to document for our industry your quality requirements. This was important to us to understand what exactly or how do you view, if you like, or how do you rank different quality attributes. We know that every single wheat quality attribute, it's important. We know that price of wheat, of course, it's important and plays an important role in selection of wheat. But what we needed to understand, and what we need to understand now even better, what exactly is your top priority? Understanding that every single attribute, as I said, it's important, but it's very critical for our industry, for our breeding companies in particular, to really understand how important is, for example, color or texture of your noodles compared to wet gluten or protein content or milling, for example, to your company. Remember, the little charts or our surveys are not about the right or wrong answer. In fact, there's no right or no wrong answer when it comes to wheat quality attributes. They are your preferences and requirements of your business. As I said, it is critical for us now to, having understood, for example, as you can see on the slide here, how critical and how important color stability, texture elasticity, texture firmness, color brightness is for your company. It is very important now for us to work on the next level of detail, if you like, to understand, well, how good does the color has to be, or color stability has to be, or how do we measure color, for example, of different types of noodles, or what are the units of required textural elasticity or textural firmness. And so this is really the work that we've engaged already with some of you, and certainly would like to invite more and more of you to participate, to, as I said, help us support you better. So over the next couple of slides, I'll just briefly touch on some of the work we've already conducted with Indonesian market, and then share also some of the insights of largely our in-market research, so research with our customers. I'll start with noodle color, or appearance as we like to call it first. And so what we see on slide here is basically looking at benchmarking of white and red wheat. You'll remember on my first slide, I had one of the quality features of our milling wheat is that our industry is based on white wheat varieties. In fact, in my view, that is probably our single biggest advantage when it comes to color and appearance of your noodle products. The fact that we offer white varieties for milling means we can offer flour which is cleaner. A flour miller can get more flour from a given ton of wheat, and that flour, when turned into noodles, yellow alkaline noodles specifically, will look better at the time of making, but will also retain a better looking color over a period of time, i.e. color stability, compared to most other origins. So now we know that color of noodles is impacted by what we call here varietal or genetic factors. So color of the brand, for example. So we can choose whether as industry we focus on white or red wheat, for example. We can choose, our breeding companies can choose to inhibit certain enzymes, for example, polyphenol oxidase at the time of their cross selections, because we know that this particular enzyme contributes to the darkening of noodle sheet as a natural reaction over a period of time. There are also factors that are outside of our control or outside of our breeders' control. And so some of those factors, for example, are protein content, largely influenced by the environment. We know that the higher the protein content, the firmness of our noodles might increase. However, we also do know that the appearance, i.e. the nice, brighter look, will decrease. Because higher the protein, higher the gluten content. Gluten is naturally a little bit off color, off white, greyish. Therefore, the appearance of our noodles, typically in higher protein wheats, it's not as good as in lower protein wheats. Couple of other environmental, again, outside of our control factors are some seasonal damage to the wheat, perhaps, but in a system like ours, importance of having seasonal receival standards to monitor and manage that quality again comes into the factor, and it's quite critical and important. Test weight, of course, we know it's a important quality trait for many, well, all millers, I would like to think, and also contributes largely driven by the environment, but has got impact not just on milling, but beyond milling, to range of products, including our noodles. On the slide here, it is a busy slide, but I'd like you to focus on the dark blue bars and then the orange, red, green, and yellow bars on your right-hand side of the chart. So what we have here is the Australian 2021 harvest. At the bottom of the chart, you can see number of different grades from different locations within our wheat growing environment, ranging from WA on the left-hand side of the chart, few samples from our South Australian harvest, and then Victorian region, the 5 or 6 samples, last samples of the dark blue bars. So what we've plotted here is the noodle, raw noodle color, objectively measured, the difference between L and B stars. So L, of course, for most of you in the audience, you understand that's the brightness or whiteness of your noodles, and B star, yellowness, or over a period of time, darkening of our noodles. So what I'd like you to, as I said, is a lot of, we can focus on individual grades, but what I really would like you to focus on is the broader differences between the dark blue bars and the colored bars, which are representative samples from the Black Sea region. So the difference between brightness and yellowness, of course, it's indicative on the difference between white and yellowish appearance, or the bigger the difference, or the higher the bars, the better, the cleaner the appearance of the product. Main point for us here really as an industry to working with our clients, understand, or customers rather, understand your minimum targets as number one. But number two, also to work together with our industry and identify where the improvement in quality is required. We understand right now, just looking at this chart, you'll see that the appearance, if you like, of Australian grades or wheat classes, generally speaking, it's better than the appearance of Black Sea wheat when made into yellow alkaline noodles. However, you can also see that there's quite a bit of range between Australian samples itself. And so that is the opportunity, and that is certainly an area where AGIC focuses a lot of its resources to basically say to our industry, we cannot afford to do nothing while we are right now better looking, if you like, or our noodles are better looking than other origins. It is very important to continue to improve and very important to continue to lift that bar, if possible, even a little bit higher. Often forgotten color quality trait. It's a little result that we often refer to as Minolta A. Typically, most of us, including ourselves, when we're measuring color of noodles, we talk about L and B, meaning brightness and yellowness, and we often forget about the importance of A star, which typically measures color in a spectrum from red to green. And so most of us probably think, well, noodles are never red or green, so why should we really worry about it? But it's really quite important to actually understand where the biggest differences actually are coming from. And again, if you look here, so this is again the difference or change in the A star between time 0 and time 24. So noodles made, kept for 24 hours and color remeasured at 24 hours later. So the differences here are the change in the redness, if you like, of the appearance of our noodle sheets. Here on this chart, the greater the bar, the worse looking noodles are, or the more red the noodles have become over a period of time. In the little window here, I'll just play our little recording, which will show you the difference of color again between white and red wheat over a 24-hour period of time. So what you've seen here, it's not just how critical the good color is at time zero, but also how much better, for example, white wheat is over a period of time. Again, the differences among our classes or grades are also, again, an indicator to us on opportunity to even improve our quality further. And again, this is where your input, particularly over the time, is and will be critical to understand your minimum, but also your ideal targets. Between the two different qualities, i.e. color and eating or texture of noodles, texture, I think we all will agree, it's a little bit more challenging, not just to measure, certainly more challenging to measure than color, but also to understand. Objectively measuring texture, as you can see on the slide here, we here at AGIC often use a number of different methods, if you like. And all of this, whether we're using a cutting probe to measure the initial firmness or triple cutting ring to measure the firmness of a bulk sample of noodles or measure firmness over a period of time, all of these methods or probes will give us a good result to understand how firm or how soft our noodles are. More important, or as important as objectively capturing the color, it's of course to understand which particular color do our customers like and are they going to choose or want to make from our wheat. And so again, an area of work where we will increasingly be looking for your input. A little summary again of how currently we perform compared to some other origins. Here on this slide for firmness measured using the triple cutting ring, we've got some of Australian AH from WA, AH from New South Wales and APW from New South Wales, compared to other origins, North American wheat, Black Sea again, and Argentinian wheat. You see here measuring noodle firmness immediately after first cooking, if you like. I call this impact of protein content. I think, again, we largely all will agree, the higher the protein, of course, the firmer noodles initially are. And look, for those customers chasing only initial firmness, perhaps this is all that's required. Initial firmness, it's all we as customers care about, and nothing beyond matters. We do know, however, that for most of our noodle eaters in Indonesia and other Southeast Asian markets, firmness is critical, but the entire mouthfeel, if you like, or eating quality of noodles, it's much more than just the initial firmness. And this is where we start looking into the properties of not just the content of protein, but the quality of the protein. And most importantly, again, I'm coming back to starch quantity, but more importantly, quality. So elasticity, chewiness of our noodles, combined with that initial firmness, will depend largely not just on the amount of protein we might have, but the quality of that protein and starch in particular. So on the slide here, again, looking at the same methodology, measuring the firmness using the triple cutting ring. But here we've measured firmness at time, if you like, 0 or immediately after cooking. And then we specifically overcooked our noodles for a given period of time, remeasured the firmness to understand the tolerance, basically, or forgiveness of our varieties or wheats, if you like, to abusive, if you like, cooking methodologies. And so, as I said, initially here, we can talk about protein content being the driving factor, if you like. But when it comes to letting our noodles cook a little bit longer and then trying to measure our textural properties, more than just protein content become important. And what's really critical here, it's not just to, again, observe the end point or end measurement, to understand which sample it's firmer, and which sample it's softer, perhaps. But it's really important to understand the degree of change. And if you can see, I'm going to use the example here of the red and green lines on your chart. Initial firmness, you'll agree, it's just about the same, isn't it, between the two samples, the red being AH from WA and green being one of our Black Sea samples. But if you come down here, once we've overcooked our samples, you see the ability of not just the content, but the quality of protein and starch to withstand that cooking suddenly gives us more insight into discrimination of the two samples, but also the overall eating quality of our noodles at the end of the day. Both certainly quite important and critical to understand. Coming back to our seasonal performance, if you like, or the texture of some of our grades and classes here from the 2021 harvest season. On the left-hand side here, we've summarized for you texture of noodles using this little device here that you can see on the screen, and I'm going to play the little test in a minute, measuring basically a couple of quality traits in one test. One being the strength itself, which again, initially, immediately after cooking, we can largely contribute to the strength, i.e. amount of protein. The second result we do get from this test, elasticity or extensibility of the noodle strands as we stretch them to the breaking point. Within the same wheat classes or wheat grades, as you can see on the two slides, so basically within a narrow or same protein content range, you see the differences in extensibility. Adding basically to the protein content, adding the quality component, particularly again of the protein, i.e. gluten. So again, you can see the performance of same grade or class, same protein content, different extensibility. So a range of wheats will have a range of different extensibilities, and we can choose, blend and match those according to your requirements. Before I go into playing the little video, I'll just quickly again capture the quality of our 2021 season, but again here looking at not just firmness, but again that overcooking stability, if you like, cooking stability of our wheats and classes and grades. Again, the dark blue bars are our firmness immediately after our first cooking. More important here than observing again the end point of how firmer one sample is over another, which largely here AH versus APW, if you like, again, is the story of wheat protein content. But if we look at here, for example, the last two bars on your right-hand side, so same grade, same wheat class, if you like, the difference between first and second cook, or between the standard and overcooking time, is your insight into stability of a particular grade, variety or wheat class, and overall not just firmness but mouthfeel of our noodles. So as important as it is to understand how firm our product is initially, it is as critical to understand how firm or how extensible the product might retain over a period of time by either doing a couple of measurements, first cooking, second cooking, or simply letting our noodles sit or stand, if you like, over a period of time and then remeasuring the texture. It gives us more insight into textural stability. And just quickly, for a little bit of fun, extension here, again, white wheat versus red wheat. What our interest here is to understand how much can we extend, how hard or how far can we pull before a strand breaks. So what we're looking for is, again, not just the initial strength, but more extensibility within that same amount of strength, if you like. So in a little bit of summary, what are some of the major benefits of Australian wheat for Southeast Asian noodle application? Certainly safe, clean and dry environment of production of our wheat. Our entire production is dependent on natural rainfall, but luckily most of seasons we are blessed with a, relatively speaking, safe and dry and above all clean production environment. Our wheat, as I said, purposely is white wheat varieties, and this is specifically targeting Asian or Southeast Asian noodles, but also other products where, as I said, colour is really critical. Functionality really is driven by our strict classification system for every single of our classes. It's not just about milling and milling efficiency, but it is also about how functional our protein and how functional our starch in particular are for different end product uses. Specifically for noodles or Southeast Asian noodles, clean flour gives bright and clean noodle color to start with. If we start with a clean and bright noodle color, we can retain that color for longer. So we can extract more stability with white Australian wheat. Noodle firmness, we understand it's critical. We understand it's driven by protein, but we also understand that the overall quality, eating quality of noodle, it's not just driven by firmness, but elasticity, extensibility, chewiness, and mouthfeel become critical. And this is really, again, where probably 50+ years of research in this country has contributed to unique starch quality of Australian wheat for various noodle applications in Asia in general, specifically in Southeast Asia. So I mentioned a few times, and most of you in the audience would have met with myself and my team over the last few years, having traveled extensively, not just through Southeast Asia, but Indonesia in particular, understanding and gathering your quality requirements. So I would like now to just spend a few minutes on explaining how the next part of the webinar will work. And so this is the part now where we will ask you for your input. Our system from breeding to classification to export is based on quality. From AGIC perspective, certainly quality matters. We do believe that better wheat quality means better noodles for our customers. But the only way for us as an industry to improve is to actually exactly understand what your actual requirements are. Very briefly, over the years, most of you, as I said, have met with us. In the past, our surveys, our wheat quality requirements of our Southeast Asian market surveys used to be face-to-face meetings with our flour milling companies in many countries of Southeast Asia. And so this was really to understand again among all wheat quality attributes ranging from protein content to protein quality to milling quality to noodle quality to price of wheat itself. Understanding that everything is important, but needing to understand what is most important. So now we are at a stage where, unfortunately, coming to see you face to face right now isn't quite possible. And we do hope that this situation will not last for much longer, but for the time being, it is what it is. And so we would like to invite you in our first ever online wheat quality requirement survey. Before we go there, I would like to share with you how AGIC has used our previous findings. Again, this is a busy slide. I would like you to really just focus on the thick blue line, I think it's green or yellowish line in the middle, and orange bar at the top. So basically, after we learned from you what is important to you as our customers, we have made a range of industry recommendations to our industry, what we as industry need to change immediately, what we need to focus on, and what we need to improve on. So since conducting first range of surveys in Southeast Asia specifically, we came back to our industry saying our #1 priority in Southeast Asia needs to be to maintain and, if possible, improve the value of our wheat for Southeast Asian noodles. As I mentioned a minute ago, it is not good enough to just be better than other origins for the time being, but it's very important for us as industry to continue to improve our quality so that you as a flour miller can offer a better quality to your customer, a noodle maker or a noodle consumer in a restaurant or in a shop. #2, we've said to our industry, and since then also engaged and contributed to investment in research on Australian wheat for Southeast Asian baking specifically. So this research is ongoing, and we hope that we will be sharing some useful results with you over the next year or so through our webinars. And this research specifically focuses on quality of our wheat, but also processing. Baking as a process. We do a lot of research on looking at different ways of how Australian wheat can be utilised in baking applications. Perhaps quite important and maybe I'll say a more significant outcome of our first wheat quality requirements studies through Southeast Asia was coming back to our industry and documenting the need for soft wheat out of Australia for Southeast Asian market. So on the background of this, we now have probably most significant investment into research and investment into breeding of new soft wheat in Australia. Most significant, I would say, ever. And so this is based on the recommendations from the studies we've done with you. So it is critical for us to really understand what it is that you as our customers require so that we can implement research or implement changes in our industry to, as an industry, serve you better. We have also learned that in the past, perhaps you haven't really fully enjoyed our surveys. And so this was largely because some of you perhaps thought that they were a little bit too long, or maybe a little bit, questions were a little bit hard, or not as easy to do on the go, if you like. So this time around, we tweaked it a little bit. And so now our surveys can be literally done on just about any device you can imagine. So today, if you like, you can do your survey on your phone. You can do it on your tablet, laptop, or a desktop. The choice is really yours. It's as easy as scanning, and I'll come to that in a minute, either a QR code that we'll provide you with shortly, or following a link that we'll provide for you in our chat tab. It is important, as I said, for us to really understand your needs. So again, we would like to invite you to contribute to this part of the webinar. The questions are based on your wheat quality requirements for noodle applications specifically. So remember, again, as I said, there's really no right or wrong answer here. It is your view on quality requirements of your company or your department. If you're a miller or a quality QC personnel or in charge of research, view of your department. What is really important for your department or your company or your market? All results are confidential to individuals and companies, of course. We are only ever interested in a summary of a result for any given market. And so this is how we communicate results back to our industry. We communicate results on the based on Indonesian requirements or Southeast Asian requirements, not an individual person or not even a company requirement. Because remember, statistical meaning of these surveys, it's only when results are summarized and provided as a summary rather than looking into one or two individual responses. Most importantly, we will again, probably through the webinar, considering our ongoing COVID restrictions on travel, share these outcomes and results with you, again, country by country or region by region. And this is how results will be shared with you. So the right-hand side, the bar again here with the different wheat quality attributes being ranked from most to least important. On the left-hand side, it's what the survey actually looks like. So some of you who have done this in the past with us will understand that every single question asking you which of the given 5 quality attributes is most important to you when selecting wheat or flour for your yellow alkaline noodles. You'll remember that we will ask you to select one as your most important and also one as your least important before you go on to next. Remember again, they not a trick questions, they're just asking and seeking your opinion on what really matters to you as a customer of Australian meat. Throughout the survey, we will also, just for a range of quality attributes, so example here, protein content, color brightness, water absorption, ask you to give us your, again, ideal, if you like, minimum and maximum targets, if you like, for example, for protein content, so that we can form, as an industry, a view on among the different countries, if you like, as you can see here on the right-hand side on the little chart. How does Southeast Asia as a region, how do different countries differ in their preferences? So again, that we can understand better how to service different noodle customers in this case, in different markets, by simply, in this little example, on their protein content ideal targets, if you like. So again, it is asking you for a little bit more information here. If, for example, you in marketing or purchasing role, for example, and you're not quite sure what your minimum or maximum target is, you can leave this part of the survey blank. So no dramas at all. If you can, we would like to know from you. We would like to hear from you. But if you really don't know something, then that's fine to leave it blank. So just quickly again, what you will shortly, I hope all of you will experience with the surveys. Few little questions looking basically at 25 meat quality attributes composed in series of questions to really understand what comes to the top or what comes as a top priority for you. Again, emphasis really is, it is your view on your market and your noodle quality requirements. And then again, on the right-hand side, those quality attributes. And as I said a second ago, if you can, it'd be great to hear from you what those minimum and maximum targets are. If you're not quite sure, it's fine to leave this part blank. So now we come to the fun bit. And so as I just briefly mentioned again, please be assured that all your responses are strictly confidential. We've been with these surveys in the market before. AGIC has done this in Indonesia, in other Southeast Asian regions. We've shared some of those results with you. Most importantly, in my view, is the fact that we've actually initiated research here to improve the quality. We've initiated the redevelopment, if you like, of our soft wheat for your markets. And we are contributing with your views into our market-driven classification. Our classification is so much better and so much richer by actually understanding what our customers need. So it's all fun from here. As I mentioned, you can use just about any device you might have at your disposal, from your phone to a tablet to a laptop to a desktop. You can scan the QR code that you can see on the screen right now. You can choose to do your survey in Bahasa or in English. And also in your chat tabs, we have now pasted the links. If you are doing it from your desktop or your laptop, you can simply copy and paste that link, and that link will take you straight into our surveys. The surveys really should not take any longer than maybe 10, maybe 15 minutes. If you really want to think perhaps a little bit longer than some others to answer some of the questions. We will stay here online. Please, if you do have any questions or concerns around the surveys, use the chat or Q&A tab by all means. Raise your hand if need be. We can let you in and verbally perhaps address some of your questions or concerns. Certainly, if you experience any technical issues with the surveys, let us know. We should be able to help. I would like to allocate about 15 to 20 minutes for us all to do this. We will stay here online to support you through this process. Otherwise, if you do finish within 10 minutes, which, as I said, should really be the case for, I think, most of you who've done this before, it's a perfect opportunity to grab a cup of coffee before we then, or tea by all means, or anything of that nature before we then continue with our surveys. So for now, I'll pause for a minute. I'll quickly check our Q&A and chat tab just to see if we've got any survey-related questions, and I'll happily try to guide you through those surveys. If by any chance you do not get to finish your surveys during this webinar today, there's nothing to worry about. Once you're logged in and once you've started, you'll be able to come back at a later stage and complete those surveys for us, if that's what you'd like to do. And as I said, we very much do appreciate your input. So remember, we'll stay here. Any questions, any concerns, let us know, and we should be able to help you through this stage. Also, remember, keep using the Q&A tab to ask any questions related to, well, basically anything Australian wheat or oats. We will be addressing your questions at the end of today's presentations. Okay, so I might leave you in peace now to sort your QRs and links and see how we go with those surveys. Okay, I think we're just about there in terms of time. I do hope that most of you have had a chance to complete the survey. As I said, we would like to hear back from all of you. Your views and opinions definitely matter. If you haven't quite completed it at this stage, we do have, or would like to move ahead with our program. We have a couple of more presentations to cover, and then of course some of your Q&A to address. I will kindly ask you, if you haven't completed your survey, to please come back to it later. Remember, once you're logged in, it will remember who you are, so you will be able to come back to it perhaps after today's webinar. But certainly, as I said, we would very much appreciate your input and look forward to your results, and certainly then sharing those results with your market. Now, as I said, we would like to move on with our program. I will continue with a second presentation that I would like to briefly basically introduce our Indonesian audience to two specialty type of wheat classes that we have in our milling classes of wheat. So some of you who have been with us through our previous webinars earlier this year might remember one or two slides I had in my presentation back then on our noodle wheat, so Australian noodle wheat class soft grade and Australian premium wheat noodles. So basically fairly similar quality of wheat, but hard as opposed to soft grain. So in our milling classes, as I said, they are well known as so-called specialty classes, which basically suggests they are in many ways special, if you like. So they're different to what we call normal wheat, and shortly I'll explain how they're different. But basically, the main reason we are talking to you about these two milling classes today is an opportunity or invitation, if you like, to work with us in looking into perhaps new product development opportunity for your market or your customers. The two classes of wheat offer a unique opportunity to play with different textures, if you like. Noodles are an obvious or one of the products, but I'll show you some examples of a couple of other end uses that we've recently played with, but certainly I'm sure most of you in Indonesia might already or will have other products in mind. And again, we will be more than happy to work with you in supporting you in thinking about how this quality of wheat could be applied and used in your market. So basically, as I said, there are two milling classes in our current wheat system. One basically, so the left-hand side, Australian noodle wheat, is soft grain wheat. The right-hand side of your screen, Australian premium noodle wheat, is similar quality in terms of colour, similar quality in terms of starch and protein quality in particular, but hard grain. So combinations of blends are possible, but also using either of the two in their own right, it's certainly also an option. So they're unique and different because of their different starch quality compared to all other milling wheats in our system. In addition to starch, pasting properties, swelling property, of course, it's quite important. In both classes, we focus specifically again on color and color stability attributes. And largely because, again, these two products are used for noodle applications largely, and or other products where, again, you'll remember me saying before, color and appearance, it's quite important. So from Southeast Asian perspective, we believe a unique opportunity exists to consider the specialties of these two milling classes and see how they can perhaps can add variety of different textures in particular to your wheat flour-based products. We know starch quality is important when it comes to noodles. We know pasting of starch is important. We know swelling properties of starch are important for different types of noodles. We know understanding the properties of starch is important to understand the different processes. For example, if we think of instant noodle production and the steaming process in particular, it's quite important, of course, to understand what type of quality we have in our wheat or in our blend so that we can design, if you like, our process better. The properties that these two, Australian noodle wheat and Australian premium noodle wheat, offer, as I said, are not just different in terms of their swelling, naturally swelling properties of starch or pasting properties in starch, but they are also genetically different to other types of wheat. And without going into complex details of genetics and mutations of the genes, but basically what we have here, through the natural mutation of one or two genes, we have wheat which is different in its ratio of amylose to amylopectin, if you like. So the two types of starch basically present in wheat. So here we have what we call partial Vexi types, so less amylose compared to amylopectin in our wheat. Which contributes to different properties, if you like, or different eating qualities of our wheat-based products. I believe most of you in the audience are somewhat familiar with completely Vexi, so zero amylose wheat, if you like, concepts, or have probably used some Vexi types before in your own right, in your product development. But here we're talking about partial Vexi types, which, as far as we know, of course, are produced a little bit in Japan. There might be a little bit of production in Pacific Northwest in US, not fully segregated as partial Vexi. But Australia is, as we understand, the only exporter of this type of quality. So largely their specialty was developed around unique customer requirements. Oops, I've just clicked twice. And so those requirements were then matched with the unique quality of starch that we have in these sweets. Typically started, or traditionally has started, with the requirements coming out of our Japanese and Korean markets. And so therefore, really the early developments of those types of wheat can be linked to the application of this wheat, specifically, if you like, to the Japanese udon noodles. And so from there, we really learned a lot about uniqueness of the texture of this wheat, or starch, if you like, giving a typical, again, I think most of you in the audience will understand the rice-like texture. So the rice cake, softish texture that you can have in your wheat-based products. And it was really largely then, looking into application of these types of wheats that we came to think about possible other applications. And as I said, really, noodles might be the most obvious, but certainly are not the only product where we believe this type of wheat can be utilized to create a range of different textures, really depending on what a customer in any given market would like to experience from an eating perspective, if you like. So certainly, if you think of this wheat as uniquely elastic and uniquely chewy in a way, if you imagine yourself eating either a noodle or even a bread, steamed bun product, any wheat-based product, and where you think the elasticity or chewiness, it's quite critical and important to give you unique experience. We believe we can work with you to develop those products for your markets. Now, I am talking specifically just about the two classes, which I've said can be used rightly on their own, can be used as a blend, but also specifically for Southeast Asia. And this is me probably thinking of your liking of firmer noodle texture. We can also blend this type of wheat with other wheats, AH or APH, for example, to really create a unique and different textural or eating experience for your market through a range of different products. So this is really invitation, first of all. We will come back to most of you to explore our opportunities further, but certainly invitation to, if you think you're interested or if you think you might have a product in mind that you'd like to develop, and you think eating quality or texture in particular are critical and important, we believe we might have something for you, and we'll certainly be more than happy to engage with you in more detail and consider how we can support you in your journey on developing new products for your market. Just very briefly, I'd like to give you a little bit of insight into quality features of the two classes, first of all, so the ANW and APW. And as you can see, currently are segregated or managed in terms of minimum and maximum protein content. And this is, again, typically to drive the quality of the products in which these two classes are currently used. But as I said, if the customer likes or requires firmer noodles, we can certainly look into opportunities of blending this type of wheat with other types, classes or grades of our wheat to still deliver the unique starch through the different experiences of eating quality through different products, resulting in what we call special mouthfeel or a combined experience of consuming your noodles or your dumplings or your steam buns or whatever you think, wherever you think that unique texture might be of value to your customers. A range of studies we've done to better understand, not just, specific focus here is on starch, but in addition to starch, of course, starch is easy to extract from flour, but of course, in making our products, it is more than just starch that contributes to overall quality. So example I'm sharing here with you is using a little testing method called Mixolab to better understand how starch contributes to gelling properties of the starch, to pasting properties of the starch, but also retrogradation of the starch in a more than just flour and water mix like we would typically do in a mylograph or a viscograph scenario. So here we are talking about fully developed doughs, if you like, so optimum water added to our dough, mixed, heated, to then understand as we start heating how this particular type of wheat contributes to gelling properties in particular of our starch. So a summary here, it's 3 little examples to show you. The red line here is partial waxy soft, so our ANW, Australian noodle wheat. The light blue line here is our same type, so partial waxy, but our hard grain component, so Australian premium wheat noodles. And this is what we call normal wheat, so our AH or APH or APW, so normal, no mutation, typical ratio of amylose to amylopectin, so normal wheat compared to partial, waxy, soft and hard. So you can see a few differences, I guess, to start with. Higher gelling properties, certainly most obvious, I believe, at the end here, it's different viscosity, i.e. at the end of the cooling stage, different retrogradation properties of the starch. But most importantly or uniquely, we believe at this stage, to the eating or mouthfeel of our noodles is this area here, or drop in what we call starch cooking stability. So after gelatinization point of starch, we call this drop in our cooking stability. As you can see, it's very obvious in our partial waxes. It's not present in our normal beads or any other normal beads for that matter. So we understand now, through linking this observation with many with research done from many years ago on other qualities of starch, other swelling properties of these partial waxes, beads and their starches. And so we understand this particular here quality of starch contributes particularly to that elastic mouthfeel of, for example, the Japanese udon noodles. Now, we are not saying that, you know, Indonesian or Southeast Asian markets are exactly after those eating or textural qualities, but we are saying that the opportunity exists here really to utilize this unique quality of starch and use it in other applications where, as a customer, you might like perhaps to diversify your products by offering to your customers or your consumers in your market uniquely different eating experience of noodles, breads, steam buns, sweet buns perhaps, dumplings, a range of products really, through using this type of feed or using this type of feed in a blend with hard, but also perhaps soft feed for your soft feed applications. Color, of course, remains a must each time we talk about noodles, each time we talk about appearance of our Asian noodle products. And so really it's not any different with this type of wheat either. A very quick example here, we've summarized application of this type of wheat in yellow alkaline, so the dark blue bars, and white salted noodle formulations, the blue bars, and presenting the color here, again, objective color of noodle brightness, noodle yellowness, and our Minolta A star, basically measuring the redness in our noodles. So this is just a very basic yellow alkaline and a very basic white salted, so plain, basically flour, water and salt formulation, just to give you insight into what type of brightness, what type of yellowness we currently have in just the two classes of wheat. So any combination, as I said, depending on how yellow or how creamy or how white you would like your noodles to be, we can play up with the blends within the two classes, but also blending them with other classes to match the color you desire. But most importantly, the uniqueness here, it's really to match the quality of starch and therefore offer you a different eating experience with this type of wheat. I've explained the way we measure texture before, and so really it is not very different here with these two classes. What is different is to see how the properties, I guess, in particular of texture change once we start looking between the different noodle types. Of course, most of you in the audience will understand the contribution to strength of yellow alkaline salts in a yellow alkaline noodle formulation versus just, as I said, flour, water and salt. But remember, again, this is a very basic formulation just to show you the principle, but any combination of salts to manipulate your color, but also to some extent beyond that starch quality, if you like, again, particularly from, I believe, Indonesian perspective, improve the firmness perhaps, but still offer that unique mouthfeel of your noodles with the starch quality we are offering here. Again, you'll see the difference largely here in extensibility between the two types of noodles. It's largely driven here by the toughening of the protein, largely here by the ingredients like sodium and potassium carbonates. excuse me. So beyond the basic ingredients, as I said, we can manipulate those, modify those to match your needs for different color, but certainly on top of the unique starch quality, play with other ingredients, perhaps also other starches to develop products to your liking. So a little bit of what else beyond noodles. So this is some of our preliminary trials. So if any of you in the audience perceive this as a little bit burnt, that's my fault. That's me not having my toasting skills quite right there. But as you can see, we've tried a few different products. We've tried to, bake a loaf of bread. We've tried a typical Indonesian recipe here with sweet buns. Tried some dumplings as well. So I'm not talking here about utilizing 100% of this type of wheat in baking, because when we look at the quality of this type of wheat, you'll immediately notice slightly less water absorption than your normal, for example, baking wheat, slightly weaker dough properties. But we are talking about adding anywhere between 5, 10, perhaps 15% of this type of wheat to offer unique, again, texture. So we're not trying to sell basically noodle wheat as baking wheat, but we are saying we can utilize some of this wheat to offer you excuse me. Excuse me, I think I've been talking for too long. So, as I said, we are offering blending opportunities, or have tried blending opportunities to give you unique experience. So we can't probably produce a good-looking loaf of bread with 100% of our noodle wheat, but we can use about 15% of our noodle wheat with AH, for example, to offer different experience to your consumer, different mouthfeel, something new on the market, if you like. So again, it is an invitation to all of you in the audience. Please get in touch with you if you are interested in collaborating with us, if you are interested in exploring your opportunities with Australian noodle wheat specifically, if you are interested in developing new products in your markets, particularly new types of texture for a range of wheat-based products in your market. We would be more than happy to technically support you and, of course, work with you in providing as much information as we can on the type and quality of the wheat we're talking about here, but certainly also guide you through some of the development that we've already done. So we'll be more than happy to share additional information with you. And certainly we develop more information, but also work with you in developing some of information further. So with that, and also considering the fact that I am losing my voice, so I've definitely talked a lot today, I would like now to invite Dr. Shabori Mitra to present to you, as I said, some very, well, we believe, quite innovative ways of using Australian oats in a range of different products. So first of all, I'd like to again remind you, Dr. Shabori Mitra is Australia's leading oat cereal chemist expert. She has conducted a lot of research herself and with our team here at AGIC. And she, over the next 15 or 20 minutes, will gladly share with you some of our findings in how we believe our oats can contribute to your market.
Good afternoon, everyone. So today I'll be talking to you all about Australian oats and the technical application of oats in healthy food products. So yeah, I'm just going to think my, yeah. So in Australia, oats is grown around 1.3 million tons, and it is one of the fourth largest crop, and it's very valuable part of farm rotation, and they are frost tolerant. Therefore, there is reduced risk in producing oat crop in Australia. Oat production region in Australia is around the wheat belt area, which is a very stable production region for grains, and therefore there is low volatility in production of oats in Australia, and we do get oats from the west as well as the east coast of Australia. This particular graph indicates that the total amount of oats volumes that we have in Australia, out of that approximately 20 to 30% gets exported, and the rest is domestically consumed. In Australia, the oat processors that we have are Blue Lake Milling, Uncle Toby's, and Quaker Oats. But our East Coast, most of the oats that are grown there are used for domestic consumption, and the processing is therefore also domestic focus. And in West Coast, most of the oats that are grown are exported to international markets, and the processing is also export focused. Here you can see the 20 export destinations, and obviously, as you see, China stands out as one of our main export countries, followed by other Southeast Asian countries and India. So in international market, oats is highly regarded for its quality. Australian oats are very low in moisture. It has bright color. They have plumped grains, and we have grains that are free from pests and any kind of chemical residue or contamination, which is highly regarded in all the international markets. So oats are known as healthy superfood. Why is oat a superfood? Well, oat consists of beta glucan, which is a soluble dietary fiber, and it is a rich source of it. And beta glucan is known to have a lot of health benefits. So some of them are that it helps to lower cholesterol and improves heart health. It controls blood glucose, controls obesity, and has anti-cancerous effect. The following health bodies have also permitted health claims related to oat beta glucan and its cholesterol lowering factor. So, because of all these health benefits, oats can actually be used as a vehicle to reduce the health burden amongst Australian and Asian consumer. The lifestyle diseases such as diabetes is highly prevalent in Asia. 60% of diabetics live in Asia, and 30% of Chinese population are either pre-diabetic or diabetic. Heart disease is another one where we see that half of Asia accounts for the world's heart disease cases, and 20 to 30% of the total deaths in urban Asian countries are due to heart disease. So, as per the health claims, eating 3 grams of beta glucan, which is available from 75 grams of oats per day, will help in lowering blood cholesterol and and improve heart health. So in Egypt, we identified that since oat is so healthy, we wanted to move oats beyond breakfast style products to go to option for lunch and dinner. And we have been therefore focusing on working on innovative oat style products, because we believe then that's how consumers can increase oats and get to eat oats beyond breakfast, and thereby promoting their health. In Asia, there are 3 types of oat products. One are One is the established one, which we are all familiar with, breakfast style, oatmeal style products. There are developing products like oat noodles and oat rice. And then there are the growth or the growing products like oat beverages, bakery style products, and the snack bar. However, in the Asian market, there is limited understanding of functionality or quality requirements for oats for these new oat-based food products. Additionally, there are few other limitations in the Asian market for the growth of these Asian oat products. So through our in-market work, we identified some of these limitations or barrier. One is under market barrier. We see that price is a huge issue there because some of the oat products are quite expensive. For example, oat rice, which is an analog of rice, is 6 times probably sometimes more expensive than white rice available in China. Investments are not directed towards these oat style products, and there is lack of innovative marketing strategies, as in there are no ready to eat or convenient style products which people can easily buy from the market. The other type of technical barriers that we saw were in processing. Which were used were not always of good quality. Local grains used were uneven in sizes, much low in hardness, which doesn't survive any pearling or milling processing. We also identified some lack of standardized processing, which produces oat products that are varied in its quality on the market shelf in Asia. Along with that, we've also noted that product quality, there are some barriers. The processors overlook the nutritional aspect and overprocess grains sometimes, removing the beta-glucan goodness out of it. Along with that, sometimes they also even underprocess it, and that doesn't remove rancidity-causing enzyme, reducing the shelf life of some products. Therefore, we have been working in AJ through various projects to try and overcome some of these barriers. And in the following slide, I'll be discussing some of our collaboration work that we have done with China in terms of benchmarking Australia versus Chinese oats for their grain quality and quality performance in 2 innovative oat style products, which is oat noodles and oat rice. And I would like to mention here that although you see in the following slides, we've done benchmarking with Chinese oats and Australian oats, AGIC is also now focusing on other potential oat markets for Australian oats and would like to do such engagements coming forward. So at first, let's discuss some of the nutritional composition variation between Australian and Chinese oats. Here we see that both Australian and Chinese oats have significant amount of beta-glucan to provide health benefit. We do see that Chinese oats have a slightly higher amount of beta-glucan. However, they had lower starch content than Australian oats and were less plump and lower in grain quality than Australian oats. So just to understand where beta-glucan resides, beta-glucan, as you look in the photo A and B, beta-glucan resides around the periphery in the alluron layer of a grain, which is denoted by the blue fluorescence. And if you see in figure B, when beta-glucan gets accumulated a lot, less energy is available in a grain for grain filling, which is probably what is happening for the Chinese grains. And in figure A, we see that there is an optimum accumulation of beta-glucan. Therefore, there is enough energy available within the grain for accumulation of starch, producing more sound grains. So what makes a good oat product? So if an oat grain has very high amount of beta-glucan, but doesn't have good grain quality, it will not produce a product that will be having good sensory or eating quality. Secondly, if an oat grain has very low amount of beta-glucan, less than 4% or even lower, and good grain quality, it might produce a product which is of good eating and sensory quality, but it will not be nutritionally that good. So we don't consider that as a good product either. But if a grain has significant amount of beta glucan that can produce health benefit, as well as good quality grain that would produce a product which is superior in all aspects. And our Australian farmers and breeders work together very closely to develop milling oat varieties which have a good combination of beta glucan as well as grain quality. So we've also done some additional analysis on our Australian oats, and we've seen that they're very high amount of minerals than any other cereals, and Australian oats also have good balance of unsaturated fatty acids, which promotes heart health. Therefore, these are additional health drivers for eating oats. So we've done our work in making oat incorporated wheat noodles. We used both Australian and Chinese oats to do this work, and we had aimed initially to produce oat noodles with more than 50% oat addition and make them shelf life, with longer shelf life by making dried noodles. However, whenever oats is added into a wheat-based formulation, because of the lack of gluten, there is a challenge because the viscoelastic property of gluten is lacking. However, through innovative work, we have managed to develop processing technology to successfully make a good quality noodles with more than 50% oats in it. So we just briefly talking about how we made it is we just mixed in the dry ingredients, mixed it with saline water. We used some natural additives. We sheeted them, cut them, dried them to form into these long shelf life noodles. Talking a little bit about the quality parameters, when we add oats in wheat formulation, the oat wheat noodles are much softer than wheat noodles because beta glucan tends to absorb more water, making the cooked noodles more softer. And when we compared the oat wheat noodles made between Australia and China, we saw that Australian noodles were less in firmness in comparison to China. However, some of Australian varieties which had higher elasticity and cohesiveness formed the best quality noodles in terms of eating and texture, as commented by our sensory Chinese panelists. However, for Chinese oat varieties, we saw that there were very high textural readings for all parameters, but they formed very brittle noodles, and therefore they lacked in the balanced eating quality. In terms of the color, if you look at the photographs, it's very clear that wheat noodles is whiter, brighter, and oat noodles are less brighter than wheat noodles, and it has more reddish tinge to them. But the Chinese panelists, they preferred an oat noodles looking like mimicking the color of oats rather than looking too white. However, they preferred oat noodles which were brighter than the darker color one. And if you look at the bar graph up over there, you see that Australian oat wheat noodles produce the brightest colored noodles in comparison to Chinese oat varieties. Then we also worked on analog of rice, oat, which is oat rice. It is processed by removing the outer bran layer of oat groat, and it's known as pearling method. In China, it is consumed and cooked along with rice. And however, these products, there are limitations in these Asian market because there are some challenges in processing these products. Either these products are excessively pearled and that removes the beta glucan from the periphery, or they're inadequately heat treated, which is causes rancidity and reduced shelf life of these products. So we have worked on overcoming these challenges by adequately processing oat rice. And what we saw was once oat rice is pearled, it forms a groat. When an oat groat is pearled, it increases the brightness. Therefore, oat rice is brighter than just a grain of oats. And because of the removal of the outer covering, the water seeps in very easily and reduces the cooking time and improves the eating quality because we're removing the outer insoluble bran layer. And also for Australian oats, when we did controlled purling, we saw that beta-glucan did not change significantly due to purling. On quality parameters, we saw that for Australian varieties were less firmer, more adhesive and less chewy than Chinese oat varieties, and it was preferred by the Chinese sensory panel. And also the color was preferred by the Chinese sensory panel because Australian oats were more golden in blue in color and they were brighter. And in conclusion, I would want to just mention that, as we've already seen from the last slides, that Australian oats produce superior quality Asian products. Australian oats have varietal variation, and that provides versatility to these grains, and they can be used for different style of oat products. Balanced oat quality with beta-glucan and good grain quality is present in Australian oats. And along with beta-glucan, there are additional health drivers for which oats should be consumed in our everyday diet. And in AGIC and its collaborators increased their technical understanding of the drivers of oat quality and innovative food products through our research work. And currently, we have managed to develop prototype for making 100% whole wheat oat noodles without the addition of any additives. And also we developed a versatile oat rice with improved technology to process it, and with improved purling milling yield. And we are currently trying to optimize these prototype products and looking for industry collaboration, and also working on other new products, and we plan to commercialize these products and see them moving from our laboratory tables to the market shelf. And for the next 12 months, the new product that we wish to develop are oat inclusions in bubble tea pearls and other Southeast Asian style products like tempeh and steam buns. And in summary, I would just like to say that in Australia, we listen to our customer. Australian oats suit the market requirements. Australia will always remain a very stable supplier of oats. We produce very unique and good quality food grade oats. 2021 seasonal start looks very favorable, and Australia is technically engaged to fully support our oat customers internationally. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Gauri. That was an excellent overview of Australian oat quality, but also, I believe more importantly, some of the innovative work that you and the team have done with oats specifically. So again, we do hope that we invite you rather to stay in touch if you're interested or if you're after more information on how Australian oats specifically can benefit your business or your market. We certainly would like to hear from you. We would be more than happy to collaborate with you in a range of different aspects. So if you are interested in utilizing our oats in your products, please do let us know. As you've heard from Shadori, we are on an exciting pathway right now, looking into opportunities to perhaps commercialize some of the products that the team have developed in our little research environment. Certainly, as soon as travel arrangements allow so, we would be keen to welcome you to Australia, to Perth, to AGIC, and certainly get you to try some of our oat noodles and oat rice products. We are unfortunately a little bit over time, but I can see that quite a few of you are still with us in quite some numbers, to be honest. And so we will try, as I said, to as best as we can answer some of your questions. I will or would like to again remind you, please, that if you haven't had a chance to quite complete your survey today, or our feed quality survey on your wheat or flour quality requirements for your noodle products, please, if you can, do so today or over the next day or so. That would be great. We would love to hear from you and incorporate your input into our industry's decision-making on what research or what particular quality attributes need to be improved for your markets and your products. So remember, it is the best way for us to understand your needs so we can, together with our industry, serve you better. Please, as we said, we've got a couple of questions here which we'll address shortly. Use your Q&A tab if you've got more questions. We will perhaps start with a general one. So, someone in our audience, sorry, I can't quite see the name, asking for if we will share the presentations from today. So obviously someone had to leave earlier, so that's okay, no problems. As we've done with our previous events, so in about a week or so, so it takes us about a week to modify our recorded version of today. We will be in touch with you in about a week's time with a recorded version of today's webinar. So yes, basically you will have a recorded version of today's proceedings with you. And again, the choice will be yours to listen to us again in either English or Bahasa. Maybe Shibori, we'll get started with you with one of the questions. You touched very briefly on some of the barriers in using oats or incorporating oats into other products other than breakfast style products. Can you just elaborate, please, what are some of the most obvious, I guess, barriers? And you mentioned lack of gluten, and specifically, without going into too many details today, but how have you overcome some of those barriers in some of the research you presented?
Thank you, Larissa, for that question. Well, some of those, we have been working on multiple projects in understanding how we can overcome these barriers. So touching upon, I think the first thing is when we go to these Asian market, what we realized is some of the products' sensory qualities were not that great. And you just can't eat something that might be healthy but doesn't taste good and doesn't have a good eating quality. So we concentrated on developing products that are superior in eating quality. Along with that, we wanted to make sure that we use processing that does not compromise in terms the nutritional aspect of these products, and they stay intact. So controlled form of processing were used. Also, some of the products at different environments can lose their product quality very quickly and have not long shelf life. So we kind of worked at inactivating the lipase enzyme in oats, which can be a factor in causing lipid rancidity and things like that to improve the shelf life of these products. And also use standardized processing methods so that every time we make a product, we know that what quality to expect from that processing. And also we are focusing on not only making staple oat rice style products or just oat noodles, but also trying to find out some convenience style prototype, which can be easily used by younger generation people or people who are busy in life. They can just take a box of cooked product, put it in the microwave in 2 minutes, and the product will be ready. So, yes.
It's certainly something that I think will appeal to our Southeast Asian audience. Yes. Nice and easy and ready to use.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for that. Just another quick one, again in the general category, as I would like to say. How can we get in touch with AGIC if we would like to collaborate? feel free to contact us directly. You have both mine and Shibori's details on your slides shortly with you. Contact anyone at AGIC at any time. Certainly in terms of today's presentations or opportunities to work together or collaborate, please get in touch with us directly, as I said, either myself or Shibori. So I think I had something else just popping up into our chat box. I'm not sure if it's a question. Okay, so while I wait for the translation, perhaps just another quick one. Can we use Australian noodle wheat in firmer noodle applications? So I think that means yellow alkaline or typical Indonesian style. Yes, I definitely think so. We can create different textures, not just elasticity, but different range of firmnesses. I think as I've summarized on one of our slides, we had both yellow alkaline and white salted noodle applications. So we can certainly, again, through blending opportunities, but then certainly also through different ingredients and salts in particular, differentiate our products based on texture, depending on your liking. I think our translation also just came through. What type of Australian wheat for noodle flour, fried foods and special breads? Okay, so I think it's probably, well, it is a big question. So I believe what type of Australian wheat is best for noodle flour or fried products or specialty breads being exported to by, okay. So I think I get a question. So typically we, of course, export wheat to Indonesian market. This is probably one of our customer of our flour mills, and a range of our milling classes I've mentioned earlier has got application in different noodle types. So for customers requiring certainly firmer noodles, we would often talk about Australian premium hard or Australian hard, so higher in protein content, stronger wheats. But really for a range of fried products or instant noodles, or deep fried noodles, again, APW, ASW or AH types certainly commonly used. Certainly when it comes to baking, again, we do understand current practices in Indonesia are particularly such where customers really require strong and stable wheat. So certainly APH and AH types would be, we would advise you there to use. Okay, this is a question. Are there any plans for post-pandemic training in Jakarta? The answer from AGIC is always and always will be definitely we can't wait. We can't wait to travel back to Indonesia. We can't wait to see you again face to face. We are more than open to try to do our best via webinars and online. We know hands-on it's perhaps a little bit tricky, even though technology is quite developed and allow us nowadays to do a lot of things. But we certainly, dare I say, will be on the first flight as soon as we resume traveling again. I certainly, with my team specifically, our work has changed significantly. Our travels used to take us back to Indonesia 4 to 5 times a year, and we've certainly are missing you all quite a bit, and can't wait to resume our face-to-face training. Unfortunately, I don't think anyone can predict how long this situation will last, so we do encourage you to please, email, call, we can have another webinar, we can use our lovely translators to help us get the message across, so there are other ways, but definitely we already are planning to be back in Indonesia for sure, and hopefully that is going to be sooner rather than later. I think that's probably a nice note to finish today's proceedings. Again, I would like very much to thank you for your time today. I would like to ask you for one little minute, perhaps extra of your time. Again, after each of our webinars, we do like to just very quickly collect a couple of responses from you on your experience of today. Have you enjoyed the proceedings? Would you like to see more or less of us? Be honest, as we always say, because that helps us improve our future webinars and offer hopefully a better experience for you in the future. We certainly hope that today we've given you a bit of insight on what opportunities exist to work with us perhaps more closely. Consider certainly our wheat, but not just wheat, as you've heard from Shibori. We do invest significantly into research and innovation with oats. Australia is a good and stable producer and exporter of oats, and we certainly are well placed to support you in better understanding, to start with, what the opportunities are and how can you as a miller or a baker perhaps, or a noodle maker in Indonesia, utilize not just our wheat but also our oat products. And certainly, as you've heard from Shibori, some of her earlier work actually involved blending of oat and wheat flour. So perhaps that is also an opportunity for some of you in Indonesia. So for now, again, please take care of yourselves, stay safe, stay well. We do look forward to seeing you soon. We can't wait, as I said, to be back in the market. But until then, we will continue to offer a series of our webinars. And certainly, apart from noodles, we do have plans to at least virtually travel for now back to Indonesia and talk to you about our wheat for your baking market segment specifically. So we look forward to seeing you again in a few weeks' time. So in October, more specifically, Tuesday, the 26th of October, we look forward to welcoming you again and talking about Australian wheat for Indonesian baking opportunities. Thank you very much. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.